I know that a lot of people want to say this, and believe me, I kind of do too, that this is a coordinated disinfo, kind of thing. But from my perspective and knowing people that I know, it seems like it just got out of control. That there was a desire to get the information out, but that it steamrolled and snowballed.
Right.
And a lot of people were not prepared for that from the perspective of, I think,
Kind of
government.
the toothpaste is out of the tube situation.
Yeah, yeah. And and I think that's been the case actually since um but that's okay. I mean, this isn't to say that it's not true.
Right.
It just means that it's a certain perspective of it. And and so what I ask in encounters is, what's the stuff that's kind of in not being asked? What's the stuff that when you go on, when you go on a podcast with one of these major people who, I'm not saying you're not major, but you're asking some questions that most people aren't asking actually. And they're not asking those questions on purpose. And so I think that, um, I think that I ask those questions. And now a lot of people I know are just want to keep a low profile about it because we don't know what's going to happen next. At least I don't. I do know that it's going to keep going, but I don't know how it's going to keep going.
Yeah. I think that I feel that way about the whole world in general right now. I mean, UFOs is kind of a symptomatic response almost. There's so many other things happening around the same time period as this, which again makes me think that it could be actually a component of this green lighting of a disclosure because I don't know how you feel, but I kind of feel like we're staring over a precipice right now. On one side is the society we have, the values, the beliefs, the understandings we have. And on the other side, the side we seem to be kind of stepping closer towards represents some form of transformation process, the amalgamation of artificial intelligence and quantum computation, more advanced models of consciousness, its novel effects, our understanding of parallel worlds and dimensions, the increased awareness of non-human intelligences. It just feels like this is the beginning of almost a new chapter. And when you analyze the intuitive and the prophetic nature of religious cultures over time with their proclamations of an end time or an epoch or a judgment day, and you correlate these intuitive kind of prophecies with the more analytical projection from technologists and futurists that we're moving towards a singularity, a biosynthetic symbiosis, the birth of an artificial god, it almost feels as if everyone is feeling the same thing, but we're simply translating it through our particular lens of perception. So some see the end time, some see the awakening of human consciousness, some see the birth of an artificial god through AI, but all of these claims have, I suppose, embedded within them, despite their differences, an underlying similarity, which is this feeling that we're transforming, that we've reached a definitive moment in our evolutionary story. So what does your intuition and what does your intellect tell you personally? Where does it feel like we're going to you?
Okay, that's a really great question and difficult to answer.
Very difficult to answer.
But I'll, and I don't think it can be answered, but I think that we can have a discussion about it.
Exactly.
And yeah, so okay. Um, After American Cosmic was published, so recall that in that book, that person Tyler, he was always asked by the places where he worked to forecast. So one of his jobs was that once a year he would be put into that room called the room of the impossible, where you can think anything, and he would be told, write down everything that you think is going to happen in a 5 year, in 5 years, like everything you can think of. And so he was doing that because, and he may not have been the only person to do that. And so he had an ability. What made him so good at his job, and apparently still good at his job, is that he he can know things almost like before they happen, right? Because you need that skill for space launching and things like that, rocket launching. Um, so they were utilizing him in that way. And after it was published, I was blessed in a sense to meet more people that were like that, even more like that. And these people were at the basically the creator had been for 20 years the creators of AI and had a belief system that was similar to his, what I would call like if anybody's interested to follow up on that, the belief system is like the cosmist belief system.
Oh, this is a Russian thing, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's this idea that human evolution is coming to this point. Ray Kurzweil picked up on it when he wrote the book The Singularity, but he
Right.
had been around for a while.
Yeah.
And it's this idea. So there is an idea, there's an evolutionary idea that, humans didn't stop evolving, we're still evolving, and now we're evolving with technology. And that we're at that point now where it is exponential. And we do see that. We do see that. And for it's we can say that it's a scary time. I tend to see it as a very exciting time.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. It's an incredible time to witness, because I was actually talking about this with my mother and she was saying, she just didn't have this idea, even though she's not religious and she's very scientific, and she has a master's degree in nursing, and, and she said, I suggested that, humans were evolving at this point with technology. And she stopped me and she said, humans are evolving. And I said, well, haven't we been evolving? Or, don't we do that? And what about natural selection and epigenetic changes? And so it didn't occur to her. But then she thought about it that way and she thought, oh, okay. And she was on board with thinking about this. A friend of mine just gave a talk on AI and its potential and the doomer idea of AI. And she was bringing this idea to a lot of people who are afraid of AI. And she said, and so she gave them a graph and she said, look at the increase in wealth and the increase in, water, fresh water to people and this and that. And she explained that linkage was human flourishing had a direct link with technology, right? Technological development. And so they kind of were on board, but they still didn't like it. They didn't like AI, didn't like technology. And then she said, okay, here's another way to look at it. Here's the graph of money, and let's look at how much money. And do you see that those people who have been using AI now for 30 years or more have been the economic industry, the bankers? They've been using AI. So I think it's time, what's wrong with using AI to decentralize money, to bring it to people? And, I tend to agree with her with respect to that. If AI is here, well, I think we need to, it's like kind of like the UFO disclosure. It's not going back into the bottle, right? It's out. So AI is out. And I think that we can actually utilize it. And in fact, there's not a choice. So I think that, I also think it has a lot of, implications for this idea of non-human intelligence.
Yeah.
Although I will leave my friends, I do talk about it in encounters, but I leave that discussion to my friends who are expert at AI, because
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, but it's good to ponder about it, especially because, like you said, it's so prevalent. It's a real marker of our position right now in human evolution. We are still evolving, and I think it was Terence McKenna that once said that the story of the human being is the story of the monkey becoming the flying saucer, and it does feel that way. And I would say that when it comes to technology, since the first time we picked up flint and struck flint to make flame and sharpened a stick to make a spear, we've been developing and propagating technology as a tool through which we exert our influence over our environment. We've been doing that since the dawn of humanity. So, this is our baby that we've been gestating, and we're now giving birth to this artificial medium. So I have to think to myself that as much as it sounds and seems scary and could, go down dystopian narratives, and, it's all of our references for it are things like Matrix and Terminator and Blade Runner and, these scary concepts. But, I try to say to people, at least from my own perspective, if I think about my own life and, the moments in my life where it's been very chaotic or dark and it's hard to really see, oh, I'm never going to feel good again, or you're in a rut. And then later down the line, you look back and you go, oh, okay, I kind of see why that needed to happen. I see how that helped me progress. It helped me get wiser, get stronger. And I like to think that if you look at the collective human group as a single entity, we're just going through the developmental stresses and strains of evolving. And yes, it does mean that there'll be chaos and uncertainty and very disruptive catalysts that come across and kind of like sweep the rug from under us as a society. But are these necessarily negative elements, or are these necessary kind of prerequisites? Is there, for example, an evolutionary prerequisite for us to in some way meld spirit and science together, connect intuition and logic, physics and metaphysics, in order for us to progress our perception of reality? Do we need hemisphere synchronization between what many consider to be opposing worldviews, spirit, science, when in reality, perhaps the clearest picture can be divined when these perspectives are in some way married together? What do you think?
Yes, I don't see a duality. And this has been a theme in all of my work, even with the book on purgatory. This idea of separating spirit and matter, the separation of spirit and matter, which, is really just a framework of perception. And I think that, especially when there's talk of the UFO, and the back engineering of what this is. And there's no talk of the weird experiences that a lot of the people who allegedly say they work on the craft, or the parts and things like that, their experiences doing that, and the kinds of research that are being done with respect to interfacing with it, right? As a, some type of, I would call it like, some people call it, I can't remember the term that's used by some of the scientists, but a multi-dimensional object. Yes, so I'm in agreement with you. And I think you said that very well, actually. I don't think I can say it better.